I think the Republicans will be united against him. You had a number of Democrats break with the president last week on one of his nominees, and I know there are a number of senators who are up for re-election who are probably not going to want to vote for somebody who is this committed to taking away our Second Amendment rights.
That was Republican Senator John Barrasso earlier this month being asked if President Obama's nominee for Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, would pass. And Governor Schweitzer, one of the problems here and one of the ways that Democrats always explain their challenge on this issue is you have a number of voters who are single-issue Second Amendment voters. I mean, when I decided to run for Congress, the first thing my dad asked me was where I stood on the Second Amendment. You don't seem to have as many folks on the other side who are single-issue and safety voters. So you know that if you advocate for gun safety, you are automatically losing a certain chunk of the electorate, where you don't know that on the other side if you do support gun control.
Well, I think, let's take another issue. Pro-life, pro-choice. It's the same kind of thing. You have a number of people who are so-called pro-life against a woman's right to choose, and they are single-issue voters. And a lot of pro-choice people aren't single-issue voters. They look at it. I would
say that it's more balanced on that issue, though, that you have more single-issue pro-choice.
I think, well, of course. I'm just giving you another one. But when it comes to guns, it says a lot more than just guns. In these square states, it's about culture. And they're saying, is she one of us or not? And that's what you ran into, even with your father, which is, you know, his buddies are going to ask the first question.
I'm pretty sure he voted for me, though. I will say.
After the story, I'm so nervous.
I think so.
And he can honestly tell his buddies, yeah, she knows about guns. I taught her to shoot, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So there you go. So this is about culture. If you really want to run a gun ad with you as a father showing your daughter, who's 12 years old, how to sight in a rifle. That's all about culture.
Well, and Dr. Lillis, you know, one of the things that is interesting about my dad is he is an NRA member, a Second Amendment supporter, who thinks that we should have things like universal background checks. You know, he is one of the majority of NRA members who feel that way. He was incensed when there was this Guns and Ammo editor who wrote an editorial in the magazine saying very broadly that we should have a conversation about gun safety, and was fired for his efforts. We have this situation in the country where you can't say anything on guns, no matter how non-controversial.
Right, and it's going to put a chilling effect on presidential appointments, in my opinion. You've seen some incredibly bright come up for posts, and Don Berwick's another one, where just one soundbite automatically disqualifies you. And to look at the career of a Dr. Berwick, to look at the career of a Dr. Murthy, these are folks who have dedicated their lives to making health care better for Americans. And yet you utter the wrong word and you're automatically disqualified. It just doesn't seem like we're allowing the right people to get to a place where they can help the American people.
Well, and to me, it's even more outrageous than that in this case, because he was doing his job. Right. He was advocating for public health. With the levels of gun violence we have in this country, I think that is an undeniable fact. But Emily, from a political perspective, I mean, you've been working in the gun safety movement. You've been working with some of the folks who were directly impacted by Newtown. How do we make political progress with rural Democrats in particular?
We do need to make a lot of progress. And I think what we've seen over the last year is a little bit of the politics changing. You know, what you were talking about, there are single-issue gun voters. It feels a little squishier on the other side. One, I think on those single-issue gun voters, I don't think you had them to begin with. So there's just the fear of them coming out. Like, there is a little bit of intensity there, but very few people actually had them to begin with. But we are starting to see groups that are popping up specifically on this issue. Mayor Bloomberg's group, Gabby Giffords and Mark Kelly's group, and they're putting money into the races. They're being serious about it. But then we're also seeing people that were on other issues saying this is an important issue to me, like the moms.
Right.
Like the young people. The young people care about the fact that this is possibly the biggest public health issue for a generation. You can't trust people who can't agree with that.
And John, what's your prediction of what's going to happen in this case?
Oh, I don't think he's going to be nominated. I think it's going to die on the vine at this point. I think Democrats don't have an outside apparatus that is being able to shift this debate towards them, and it's not going to happen for a fair amount of time. So I don't think he's going to get nominated.
Well, you know, very broad coalition come together in support of Dr. Murthy, and I hope that we can do what we often do in medicine. We take conventional wisdom and we examine it with analysis and science, and we decide if the conventional wisdom is accurate or not. In this case, I don't think it is. I spoke to a U.S. senator, and that was about a week ago, and he said that, and he's in a purple state, he year after year would take principled stands on this issue, and he said it never cost him any votes. But in the wake of the Newtown tragedy, he actually thinks that taking principled stands has net him positive votes. So I think we have to be careful that conventional wisdom, in medicine, conventional wisdom can kill people if we're not scrutinizing it and making sure it's accurate. In this case, conventional wisdom could cause a miscarriage of democracy.
Well,
this is a
you're making it complicated.
Candidate.
You're making it complicated. Look, you have Democrats who are running in states where Obama has a 37 or 38% approval rating. And so when that Democrat can say, you know, I didn't support the president on this particular nominee,
right,
it gives them that mark to those independent voters that says, I'm sick of Obama and I kind of like this gal over here because she stuck it in his nose on this particular nominee. And that's kind of how this thing goes down.
But they already have one. Right, with the Department of Justice. Like, they already have one, they can say that again.
Sometimes you need 2 or 3.
Well, Dr. Lillis, there's also a possibility that the confirmation vote is delayed till after November so that nobody's forced to take a tough vote when it's really tough for them. And perhaps after the elections happen, then he could be brought up for a full confirmation vote. Is that a possibility in your view?
I think it is a possibility. I think what we just need to keep our focus on is that Dr. Murthy is an eminently qualified candidate for this position. He's got an amazing track record of building movements. He's got a way to get inspiration to action. And that's exactly what we need in this post. We need someone who can inspire the American people to put a dent in obesity and preventable health problems. And so we have to find a way. We have to find a way to get Dr. Murthy confirmed because he is going to be a next generation Surgeon General. And
in your conversations with some of the folks on the Hill who are working with these senators in tough states, they've been relatively open to your argument, correct?
It's
been a mixed bag.
It's been a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand where they're coming from, but I just hope we can have an open conversation about public health. It
is a sad state of affairs that the NRA is having such a say in who our nation's next Surgeon General will be. I want to thank Dr. Chris Lillis with Doctors for America. And still ahead, couples are lining up this morning outside some Michigan County clerk's offices. We'll tell you why after the break.